Hey guys, after covering the Age of Apocalypse Wave 2 action figure reviews, I decided to do some simple modifications to improve certain aspects of these figures. I'll be going through them in increasing level of difficulty from Cyclops to Shadowcat. I hope you find this useful and try them out on your own. First up is Cyclops. Besides his visor, I felt that his head sculpt lacked paint and other details. So I went ahead and added my own 5 o'clock shadow onto his face. I used a fine-tipped Gundam marker in dark gray, and just to show you how fine that tip is. So all you need to do is just draw it in, and then use your thumb or your finger to then rub that ink to give it a faded look. While you're doing his cheeks, just make sure to rub it downwards towards his jawline so that you don't smudge that ink onto the rest of his face. And likewise, when you're working around his mouth, you rub the ink outwards towards his cheeks when you're working above his upper lip. And when you're working on his chin, just rub that ink downwards towards his chin. So that way you can prevent smudging onto the rest of his face, yet get an organic faded 5 o'clock shadow. Next up, we are looking at Colossus. As you've seen in my previous review, just swiveling him along his waist and crunching him backward and forward, the yellow straps on him will come loose. So right now what I have done is applied a very thin layer of super glue around this peg in order to get this peg thicker, and it would have a more snug fit into that hole on his belt. You can also use other options like floor polish or nail polish. Just make sure that the layer that you apply around that peg is thin enough. So right now I am pegging that back in. So now that peg stays in more firmly as I swivel his waist, as well as when I crunch him forward or backward, that peg still stays in. Next up is Sabertooth. Originally his collar comes as a separate piece. It's not really attached to his shoulders, simply pegged into a hole at his back. So I didn't like that the collar was floating around as I started posing the figure. Right now what I've done is I've applied a layer of super glue onto the top part of his torso as well as onto his shoulders. And I've also applied that super glue on the top part of his back as well as inside that peg hole. So now that I've glued everything firmly down, you can see that this collar doesn't shift around anymore. It doesn't flip up from the front as I start posing and playing with the figure. So to me, this improves the feel of the figure in hand and does not get in the way as I start playing with the figure. And now on to Rogue. From my review, I did not like the very limited forward ab crunch on her torso. To me, this is a little limited, especially for a character that is supposed to fly straight into battle and punch all the baddies. So now I'm gonna have to heat and pop that torso and then Dremel that joint to get more range out of it. So the first step is to crunch her backwards. Use a pencil to mark out the part on the torso, and this is where we don't want to Dremel beyond, simply because we don't want the hole in the joint to be showing when she crunches backwards. And this is what Rogue's lower torso looks like once you pop her upper torso off. And this is the line in pencil to show you just how far you gotta Dremel that joint. And this is what the ball joint of Rogue's torso looks like after I've Dremeled it. Just taking a quick check on that peg and you can see how much further forward it bends. And popping her upper torso back on and checking out that forward range, and it is much improved. The great thing is that crunching her all the way backwards, there's no sacrifice in that gap for the torso. And so now I am much happier with the improved range of forward ab crunch on Rogue. The ab crunch is really important for active and agile characters, and over here the improved range definitely enhances Rogue for me. And finally we are at Shadowcat. She's got the most work to be done. There are 3 aspects of this figure that I will have to fix now. First up is the paint in her mouth. I've gone ahead and painted the lower row of her front teeth. So at least right now she looks like she's got a full set of teeth as compared to the original when she looked a little buck-toothed. Next up, I also went ahead and fixed her claws. Originally out of the box, those claws were distorted and warped in the packaging. So what I did to those claws, I went to heat them up and then splay out the claws, getting them straightened and in a position that you would like them to look while they're still hot. After that, you just stick them onto blue tack. Let the blue tack hold the claws in your desired position for about a day or 2. And now those claws look so much better straightened and splayed out correctly as compared to when they were warped out of the packaging. Which brings me to the third and final modification for Shadowcat. Being a character who uses her claws in a fight, naturally she would have to crouch and be agile. In that respect, her forward torso crunch is pretty limited as well. So I'm gonna have to do that same treatment that I did for Rogue. One thing to note as you pop Shadowcat's torso off is to make sure to remove those claws so that you don't undo your hard work, because heating them once again will cause them to go back to their default warped state. And this is what Shadowcat's torso looks like once you pop it off with some heat. The strange thing is the larger hole above that ball joint already gives you that range that you need to get her moving her torso in all directions. So actually what you will need to enlarge is that smaller hole that the ball is sitting in. So to illustrate, once you crunch her forward, this peg isn't touching the side of that larger hole. So you are actually not realizing the full range of articulation that the lower torso sculpt is giving you. And likewise, as you crunch her to the back, we also see that same issue, that the peg is not reaching the outer rim of that hole. So now you will need to Dremel that hole on the inside for the peg to be able to touch the outer rim of that larger hole. And this is what Shadowcat's torso looks like after Dremeling it. As you can see, once I push that peg backwards, the peg now touches the rim of that larger outside circle on the lower torso, and likewise that peg also touches the front. You can have a closer look at how much material I actually removed from the inside of that ball joint. This is on the back, and this is what it looks like on the front. Popping on Shadowcat's torso right now, she looks like she definitely has better forward ab crunch as well as backward bend. So this should help her get into more convincing deep action stances, as well as that improved backward bend, helping her get into more convincing in-flight poses. I hope you find this video useful and easy to follow to make your own modifications to Cyclops, Colossus, Sabertooth, Rogue, and Shadowcat of the Marvel Legends Age of Apocalypse Wave 2. These small modifications greatly improved my enjoyment of the figures, and it should also enhance your overall experience with them. Please like and share this video, let me know what you think in the comments below, and subscribe to my channel for more toy reviews as well as toy modifications. Thanks for watching, take care and stay safe.